The Puck Portfolio with Andy McNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. It is Thursday, March 6th, back covering a big Thursday slate in the NHL. I'm your host, Andy McNeil, and joining me, as always, from DFO, Nick Martin. Nick, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I had my men's league game last night, so these mornings are always a little tough. But yeah, I'm excited to get into this one.
If it was a real man's league, you wouldn't be complaining every week.
I mean, half my team's getting up at like 5 a.m. and doing a full 9 to 5, so I shouldn't
Yeah,
complain.
yeah. I kid. Anyway, your picks sort of made up for my losing picks last night. One of my first bad nights in, I don't know, I guess a couple of weeks because we've been on a pretty good run here on the show. I went 0 for 3 last night. Nothing really came close to getting there. Although Tim Stützle did have a couple of late shots on goal in that game for the Ottawa Senators, but he only finished with 2, so under 2.5 shots on goal. I needed the over. The Sens, they came out with the win, but not a very good performance from them last night. I thought it was a pretty close game overall, not just the score, but the shots and whatnot. So I was a little bit surprised there to see Ottawa kind of just eke that win out. But a big slate in the NHL today. I guess we should start by patting you on the back for your call on Utah yesterday. You like them as an underdog. You said you thought they should be a favorite. Well, they are now a minus 131 money line favorite at Pinnacle. They've been off for 4 days, so they've got a big 3-day rest advantage over the Red Wings tonight. Looks like Alex Lyon will start for the Detroit Red Wings. Any other thoughts on this game at the current price, or just any thoughts in general?
Yeah, unfortunately, this really moved again because even at minus 120, I was happy to give it out again this morning and kind of, you know, uh, hoping that for the people who didn't listen yesterday, they could get in on it. But unfortunately, I'd say it's moved out of the target range. And I'm definitely not patting myself on the back yet because these ones that have been the biggest movers have been where I'm getting crushed on sides this season. If someone out there had just been fading me, waiting for the number to move the entire, as much as it does, that would have been a great strategy for them. But I feel like eventually this line value will pay off. So yeah, hopefully it does tonight. Hopefully Utah shows up.
Yeah, the only other teams with a rest advantage over their opponents tonight are the Florida Panthers. They're hosting the Blue Jackets after a 2-day break. Columbus has had 1 day off, so a 1-day rest advantage for the Florida Panthers. And the Canadians, they're coming off a 2-day break ahead of their game versus the Oilers, who have been off for 1 day after that embarrassing 6-2 loss to the Anaheim Ducks. We'll talk about that game in a little bit. But that said, there are 3 teams in action tonight. They're on the front half of a back-to-back. The Jets, they're going to play the Flyers tonight and the Devils tomorrow. Detroit and Utah, they'll also play again tomorrow. The Red Wings are going to travel to Washington to play the Capitals, while Utah is going to travel to Chicago to play the Blackhawks. But let's quickly talk about the Devils. You talked about them yesterday, about maybe being a good bet to miss the playoffs. I'm guessing that the odds on the Devils to miss the playoffs have moved a little bit. I saw 5-1 at Sports Interaction this morning, which was much lower than the price you were talking about yesterday. News coming out, kind of suspected that he might be, out for the rest of the season, but Jack Hughes now confirmed to be done for the season after surgery to repair his injured shoulder on on I guess on Wednesday. I guess the surgery was yesterday, or maybe it was Tuesday. But either way, he's out for the rest of the season. Apparently, he'll be good to go for training camp next year. But well, I don't know if I don't know if it necessarily, like, in my eyes, I'm not sure the Devils are a good bet to make the playoffs, especially at the odds, or to miss the playoffs. Sorry, especially at the odds that they're sitting at right now. But I definitely think it kind of virtually wipes out any chance of them being a true Stanley Cup contender now without Jack Hughes in the lineup. I just look at it. They've got an easier schedule than teams like the Red Wings and the Rangers and the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are in their division and are kind of hot on their tail right now. But they've got a slightly easier schedule than both the Rangers and the Blue Jackets. Definitely easier than the Red Wings. So I kind of think they'll still find a way to squeak in there when it's all said and done, even if that is in a wild card spot. You look, they don't really play too many top teams, even the playoff teams that they do play outside of maybe the Winnipeg Jets, who I believe they have two matchups against left to go here this season. Most of the teams that they play are kind of in the middle of the pack, in that mushy middle where uh, not really any elite teams down the stretch for the most part. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Jersey get it done and make the playoffs. But the loss of Jack Hughes definitely is a big blow to their chances. It's going to make it harder for them to make the playoffs. So getting out in front of that news yesterday was probably a good bet, all things considered. And yeah, Dougie Hamilton. He's listed as day to day right now, so I don't know how long he'll be out exactly. But any more thoughts on the Devils?
Yeah, like you said, most of the markets have adjusted. FanDuel is the best number I'm seeing, still at plus 630. They were at plus 870 when we recorded the show yesterday. So they've obviously
Yeah,
made what they believe is their accurate adjustment. I would still not hate that play, but yeah, I'm with you. Like, obviously, they're decently well situated to pull it off, even without those guys. Um, and they'll also be a team to watch here because supposedly they're considering adding to help fill that void, which seems kind of puzzling. I feel like at this point,
yeah,
whoever they get, you'd think has to be extended into next season because it just feels crazy to pay up for a guy to. Yeah, I mean they're not getting anyone to replace Hughes this year, so yeah, I agree that they're pretty much out of it. But yeah, we'll see how it goes, and they can move their chances a ton tomorrow if they were to beat the Jets on a back to back. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes.
yeah. New Jersey 72 points right now, with their lead over the Columbus Blue Jackets is just 4 points, and the Blue Jackets have two games in hand. The Rangers are 5 point back of the Devils, and they have one game in hand. So it'll be interesting. It'll make things interesting, that's for sure. In a Eastern Conference playoff race that is already pretty interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of teams switch position over the next few weeks here, leading into the end of the season. So it's going to be a fun race. But yeah, the Winnipeg Jets in action today against the Philadelphia Flyers. I mentioned that they'll play the New Jersey Devils on Thursday. The Jets on a back-to-back here, and it's going to be Eric Comrie starting for the Winnipeg Jets, or at least he is likely to start. Based on reports out of practice right now. And this comes after Connor Hellebuck lost back-to-back games for the first time all season. So I guess they're going to give him a little bit of a rest here. He started both of the last two games. Comrie last started versus Nashville, and Samuel Urson is going to start for the Flyers. So the Jets money line has come down quite a bit. They were up at minus 155 in that range, and now they're down at minus 135 at Pinnacle Sports. So that'll be interesting. I would be curious to see what the opening line on Winnipeg and New Jersey is going to look like for tomorrow, with Jack Hughes and presumably Dougie Hamilton out of the lineup.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure. I'd assume yeah, right now Jets are minus 126. That sounds,
yeah,
more or less
pretty
fair to me.
reasonable.
So yeah. And we might as well just throw this out there now while we're kind of on tomorrow's slate. For those that can get it. Don't need to dwell on it too long. But FanDuel has the Red Wings Capitals game for tomorrow with a total of 5.5 at minus 134. I I think that's a terrible opener. I thought if anything, this game had a small, like I thought this would have been 6 with the same juice to the over. So I'm just not seeing it there. I think right now the Red Wings are a pretty high event team. The Capitals just came off of a hard fought, gritty win over the Rangers, but I think that was more about that kind of game between the two rivals and the way the Rangers are playing right now than anything to do with the Capitals. I still think right now the Capitals should be able to generate their offense versus the Wings back to back, but I think we could see Detroit's power play have a strong night. I think the Caps defensively haven't been that consistent recently. So, yeah, I was pretty surprised to see a 5.5 there.
Yeah, Andre Vasilevsky, he is going to start for the Lightning, who pulled off a big trade yesterday with the Seattle Kraken. Tampa Bay acquired former Lightning forward Yanni Gord and Oliver Borkstrand for a couple of first round picks, one in 2026, one in 2027. I think this is a great move for the Lightning. I mean, you look around the Eastern Conference, and yeah, the Capitals have had a great regular season, etc. But I don't think there's one team in the Eastern Conference that really stands out as, a juggernaut or anything like that. So I think Tampa Bay, given their situation with Andre Vasilevsky as their starting goaltender, he can take them a long way in the playoffs on his own. Bolstering their forward group and their lineup for a potentially long playoff run, I think is a great move for them.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think when you look at the minutes that Bjorkstrand and Gord are going to be replacing, that's what makes the move so good. Because we've talked about how the Lightning already look pretty convincing, and they got two guys that are clear and obvious upgrades over guys who were, where these guys were playing formally. So I like the deal a lot. I think it's a great deal for the Kraken too. They got a
Yeah,
huge return for two useful guys, but I think it's a trade that makes a lot of sense for both teams. I think the Lightning are a solid bet to win the cup at plus
same.
1400. So yeah, I think there's a lot to like about it from Tampa's perspective.
Yeah, like I said, I just don't. I mean, I think there's going to be some surprises this year in the playoffs for sure, given how everything's kind of shaken out this season. But Tampa Bay is a team that I think could go a lot farther than people would have expected them to go at the start of the season. And yeah, this is a great move. Yanni Gord was a big part of their Stanley Cup victories, and I think he will fit right in with his old team going forward. And Borkstrand too. These guys are both very useful players, like you said. Jonas Korpisalo and Pyotr Chekhov are the likely matchup for tonight's game between the Bruins and the Hurricanes. Boston still without Brad Marchand and Charlie McAvoy, coming off ugly loss to the Nashville Predators, who put up 6 on the Boston Bruins. I don't know. It's probably the first time all season that Nashville scored 6 goals. It might not be, but I mean, it sure seems like it based on how poor their offense has been. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting one for the Bruins. I'll be interested to see if they hold anybody out ahead of the NHL trade deadline here tonight. I think you could see some late scratches here in this game. I think Boston is. I think they would be wise to sell off everything they can. I know we've talked about it a lot on this show. They already kicked things off with the Trent Frederick trade to the Edmonton Oilers. The Devils involved in that one. But yeah, I've seen rumors that maybe they're thinking of holding on to Brandon Carlo. I don't know why. It's clearly a seller's market right now. Um, Based on the prices that you talked about, the Lightning, the what they gave up for Yanni Gord and Oliver Borkstrand, I think there's a lot of it makes a lot of sense to sell on players that aren't going to be here in the Boston organization for the long term. I probably would hold on to Morgan Geekie. I think I think they've gotten a lot out of him, and I think he can fit in your lineup going forward. I don't think the Bruins are looking to do a total rebuild here. So I think they're looking to what they can do to turn it around and come back as a playoff team next year. So I think Morgan Geekie is a guy that I would hold on to, unless of course the price tag is exceedingly high, I guess, or teams are really going after him, because I think there would be some interest in him going forward. But I don't know. I'd like to see Boston make some deals ahead of this trade deadline tomorrow. Anybody that's not named David Pastrnak, Charlie McAvoy, Jeremy Swayman, etc. I'm going to throw Brad Marchand in there too, because he's my captain.
Yeah. I mean, the Bruins are now down. They only have a higher win percentage than 3 other teams in the East. They're out of
Yeah,
it. So
they're out of
yeah.
it.
And I wonder if that was a bit of the Nashville game too, is they kind of, I feel like maybe came out a little flat and have lost it a little bit. Not that they've been playing great, but I wonder if that was a bit of a defeated team coming back from that regulation loss to Minnesota, just kind of knowing where they're at heading into this deadline.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by Marchand's comments after the game, kind of like admitting that they might not reach their goal this season, which you don't really hear guys say very often. I mean, I always think back to Jonathan Taves when he was, captain of the Chicago Blackhawks, and the Blackhawks had been mathematically officially eliminated from the playoffs. And in the post-game interview, he was asked about it, and he was like, "Well, I'm not going to count us out yet." It's like, no, you're out. You can't make it. So I was a little bit surprised to see Marchand kind of wave the white flag there. But I mean, it's hard to blame him at the same time. So
Yeah, I'm sure ownership never ever wants to hear that kind of thing, and
no.
some people are not going to be as aware of how bad the chances really are. But yeah,
And yeah, the Seattle Kraken in action tonight against the Nashville Predators. Still no word on whether or not Roman Josi is going to return to the Predators lineup tonight. He missed Nashville's road trip with an injury. It is going to be Juuse Saros getting the start for the Predators. But you want to talk about the Flames and the Stars. We've got Jake Ottinger and Dan Vladar in goal tonight for their respective clubs. And you've got a couple of player props you like in this one?
yeah, and we can do I have a prop in the Preds game, so we can do that one after. But I like some of the chalky props. Fading star players for the Flame for opposing the Flames has been great to me lately, and I think there's some good props out there on this one that I'm kind of surprised. Pinnacle had Robertson at -125 to record over 2.5 shots. He's done that in 9 of the last 10 games, so obviously a pretty dominant sample there. And when you look at the way that top line with Hintz is playing, that top power play since Harley's gone up there has been one of the very best in the league. You've been on that a lot. I think that number is pretty surprising. I feel like this is a guy most of last year had a shot prop of 3.5, and now he's starting to pour it on the way he was previously. So yeah, versus a Flames team that's been giving up a ton of shots against for a pretty large sample here. I'm pretty surprised to see that good of a number. So I think that one makes a lot of sense. And then you can parlay Hintz and Robertson each to get a point at +110. I think that's a good bet as well. They've been two of the league's very hottest skaters. Hintz has actually been the hottest skater over the last month with 18 points the last 11 games. Robertson has 16 points in the same span. So love the correlation there. I think they're both in excellent form. They look as good as the numbers suggest. And yeah, Calgary, we'll see. They might even start Dan Vladar here, but if it is Wolf, I still think we're getting
I think it's been
pretty good
confirmed that
number.
it is going to be.
Oh yeah, okay, it has Eric Francis. Nice, yeah. And Vladar has been better for 3 straight starts, but I still think you're happy with that news, obviously, if you're fading the Flames in any fashion.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, so did Francis confirm it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Daily Faceoff still has just the likely tag because he was in the starter's crease at practice this morning. And in addition to UC Saros getting the start for the Predators, it looks like it's going to be Joey Decord for the Seattle Kraken going in against the Predators. I do want to say I did consider adding the Thomas Harley over 0.5 points tonight at -125, but I think I'm gonna pass on that one tonight. As as much as I've liked backing Harley as of late, that one has moved a lot over the last couple of games, up from where it was originally. So it's been about a 25-30 cent increase from where it was when I first started betting on this. So I'm going to pass on that for now. And but you do like something in the Preds and the Kraken game?
Yeah, I think that there's value backing McCann to get 3 shots at +125. I think that's pretty much the consensus number. He has been pouring it on much more consistently from a shot volume perspective of late. He's gone over in 4 of the last 5. And I think when you look at the kind of player he is, he's been a 40-goal scorer. It's kind of been surprising how low his shots were trending prior to this break. So I think it's just a good time to keep buying on him. Nashville has been one of the league's very worst defensive teams here for the last bit. So I think it's a pretty good price from that perspective. And there is a chance that McCann will get slightly more minutes. I haven't seen how how Bilesma's going to revamp the lineup with Bjorkstrand out of there, but I think there's a chance he'll get a little more usage. He's averaging 4th on the team in minute or among forwards in terms of time on ice, which again is pretty shocking. And I mean, there's also the chance that McCann gets traded prior to this game, which at that point, obviously, your bet will void. But I think it's a pretty good number versus a Preds team that really hasn't defended well. And with McCann potentially getting a better role and in good form, all those things, it just feels like plus 126 is a pretty long number there. So, and I think the other thing too, tiny note, but that I like that Novak trade for Pittsburgh. I think from a Dubas perspective, he gave up one of the main pieces from the Gensel trade. So I'm not trying to say he's a genius here at all, because that is starting to look, more debatable. But he does get a guy I think a lot of people are pretty high on in Novak, for someone in Bunting that I feel like more or less we know what he is at this point. So I like that. And if you look at it from a defensive perspective, Novak has been one of the best Predators forwards. So hopefully that helps out McCann even a little more here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of the Penguins moves. I do like Tommy Novak, but yeah, Pittsburgh. I feel like making
And
some.
there's no team I'd rather bet on grabbing a forward from right now than the Predators. That team
Yeah,
has been like what Barry Trotz has done is just, I don't know if he's just trying to completely bottom them out at this point, or he's actually thought some of these moves are helping, but it feels like he's just getting rid of every fringe player with some upside and just kind of sticking with those tough contracts that he's now, saddled the roster with for what is going to be a long time. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good idea to bet on that kind of guy from Nashville right now.
yeah, I don't disagree there. From a betting perspective, admittedly I kind of hate this slate. I haven't had a lot of luck finding bets that I like tonight, especially in the games that I was covering today. I did find a couple in the Oilers and the Canadiens game, and I'm gonna go back to the well on Val Nichushkin to score an anytime goal against the San Jose Sharks tonight at plus 160, or sorry, plus 165 is available at Bet365. I think that is a pretty good look against the Sharks team, who, we've talked about it a lot, have been one of the worst defensive teams in the league, not just this season, but especially as of late. And Colorado has historically beat up on this team a lot. I believe 11 straight wins versus the San Jose Sharks, dating back to the start of the 2021-22 season. But let's talk about the Oilers and the Canadiens. Big matchup tonight for both teams, because the Oilers kind of fallen out of the Pacific Division title race here. They're 6 points back of the Vegas Golden Knights. They have lost 6 of their last 7 games. Stuart Skinner is going to start for the Oilers tonight, and Matthias Ekholm questionable to play due to an undisclosed injury. But the Canadiens, they've been hot. They've won 5 games in a row. They're kicking off a 4-game Western Conference road trip tonight, and they've looked all right. I mean, they're just 2 points behind the Ottawa Senators for the second wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference right now, which is pretty surprising given how they kind of started to bottom out after that nice little run that they had going through the holiday break and out into the new year. Didn't really look that good for a while, but they've started to turn it around. They still have a really tough road ahead, though. They've got the 4th toughest schedule based on regular season points totals, and 11 of their 21 remaining games will be played against teams that are currently in a playoff position. But you look over the last month and change since the start of February, they're ranked 16th in expected goals and shots at 5-on-5, so not good, but not bad either. But like the Oilers, they also rank among the bottom 10 teams in goals for and against at 5-on-5. But both teams have a really good power play over the last month and change. And the Canadiens have been a lot better on the penalty kill than the Oilers have been as of late. I've been a little bit
Hard to kill
tempted.
penalties with that goaltending.
Yeah, it's I've been a little bit tempted. If Montreal's money line was a little bit longer, I might take a chance here. They've got a 1-game rest advantage over Edmonton. I think Edmonton's going to come out with a lot of fire tonight, obviously after that loss to the Anaheim Ducks. But I do think Montreal can kind of match them and go toe for toe with them on offense right now, based on the way they're playing. They've gone 14-14-1 on the road this season. They've won 8 of their last 12 road games, though. And from a betting perspective, they've been the 4th most profitable money line bet, in the NHL this season. They've also been the 4th most profitable underdog bet and the second best underdog bet on the road. So if you'd bet on the Habs to win all of their road games in which they were listed as the underdog this season, which I think is all of them, or actually no, they probably would have been a favorite in their
The
game
Sharks
against San
game.
Jose.
Yeah.
But the you would be up, or you would have a record of 13-13 right now, and sitting on more than 10 units of profit. So it's been a good idea to ride the Canadians as underdogs on the road. And then, of course, like I said, the Oilers coming off that embarrassing 6-2 loss to the Ducks, 6 loss in their last 7 games. They're now 6 points back at the Vegas Golden Knights for the top spot in the Pacific Division. Like you said, goaltending, defense, they've been a big problem for the Oilers. And, leading into the Four Nations face-off, they had only allowed 3 goals in 16, or more than 3 goals in 16 of 19 games between December 31st and the break, and the last game before the break in for the Four Nations face-off. But since returning from the break, they've allowed 4 or more goals in 6 of 7 games, and the offense just hasn't been able to make up for it. They haven't scored more than 3 goals in a game since returning to action. So obviously, this has raised a lot of questions about their staying power as a Stanley Cup contender. There was already a lot of concerns about the goaltending heading into the second half of the season, and just even dating back to last year, I think a lot of people would agree that if the Oilers had better goaltending, they might have come out on the right side of that Stanley Cup final against the Florida Panthers. But now the forward core is, starting to show a lot of signs of weakness. And obviously, you've got Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Zach Hyman isn't doing nearly enough. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, the same goes for him. They're making some questionable lineup decisions a lot of the time. I mean, I know people have ragged on Jeff Skinner a lot this season, but hey, he's been pretty good from a goal scoring perspective, given his minutes that he plays. So it's a little bit strange to see him kind of getting the short end of the stick when this team needs some offense. And yeah, from a betting perspective, they've been one of the worst money line bets at home this season. They've gone 18-11-2 at home. But because their average money line odds are closer to 65%, it's resulted in a net loss of more than 4 units year to date. So they've also posted a 9-22 record against the puck line, and that's thanks to an inability to finish off weaker teams in regulation. They've had 13 home games this season in which their money line odds have been minus 200 or higher, and they have just 6 regulation wins in those games. So that's a big deal as they approach the NHL trade deadline. That said, I am going to bet Leon Draisaitl anytime goal minus 112 here. I think this is going to be a relatively high scoring game. Obviously, Canadians forward Cole Caulfield's really hot coming into this one. That was sort of a tempting bet given Edmonton's defense. I think he's up around the plus 184 range in the anytime goal market. He's got 4 goals in his last 5 games, but Leon Draisaitl is hotter than anybody right now. He's got 10 goals in his last 11 outings, 6 goals in his last 7 games against the Canadians. I think minus 112 is not a great price, but pretty reasonable overall, especially when you look around at what's out there in the betting market at some other sports books. And I'm also going over 1.5 first period goals. That's now at, I believe, minus 142 at Pinnacle. It was at minus 139 when I posted my article earlier this morning. So a little bit of movement there. But both Edmonton and Montreal rank in the top 12 teams in first period scoring, dating back to the start of 2025. But they also rank in the bottom 10 in first period goals against during that time. And Edmonton, in fact, has allowed more first period goals than any team in the NHL since the new year started. And I think, like I said, they're obviously going to try to come out with a little bit of fire here after that disastrous first period against the Ducks, where they allowed 4 goals. But I think the Canadians have enough scoring punch, and they should also be up for this game given where they're at in the standings and whatnot. So I think this is. I actually consider going over 2.5 goals at a longer price, but I'm going to stick with the over 1.5 at minus 142 for this one. And like I said, my other bet for tonight is Valerie Nichushkin to score an anytime goal at plus 165. That's available at Bet365. Any thoughts on the Oilers Montreal Canadiens game or the Sharks and Avs game?
Yeah, I mean, I like your Draisaitl bet. It's crazy. You said, it's not a great price at -112, which, seems right when you're talking about goal scorers. But I just did a quick count. I think I got it right. I think he's only not scored in 23 of 61 games this year, which is absurd. Uh, yeah, I'll have to look back on that after. But I mean, obviously, they're playing a below average defensive team here. So that kind of tells you it is a pretty good number. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
let
like
me
that.
let me like rephrase that. Not a super attractive price when you're talking about
For
an
a goal
anytime goal
scorer,
scorer.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
but it
sure.
is. I do think it has positive expected value for sure.
Yeah, yeah, when you look at the way he's pouring them in. 10 clear of Nylander now, and hopefully Caulfield keeps it going for us. It's going to be a good sweat for anyone who did tail him to score 40 at plus 750. We got the 30 goals, which is what I really wanted, but he has 21 games left to get 10 goals more for us. So really hope he stays hot as well. But yeah, I think right now you've kind of touched on it a lot, but just playing the Oilers props, just backing their stars, I feel like is the way to attack them. Even as juiced as the numbers are getting, I still feel like a lot of the time right now that's the avenue to play them. Even McDavid still at -115 to get 2 points this game. I think that would be my second bet too. I'm not too worried about him. I feel like it's easy to make the case for the game's best player, but it's been pretty surprising that he's been kind of this lethargic at 5-on-5. But I think we'll see him figure it out. I don't think it's gonna be much longer until he gets in one of these heaters that we're so used to seeing.
Yeah, no, and I wish I had a tally here of my Oilers bets. Obviously, I tracked them on the Action app and on another app, but I uh, I don't have on hand here just the Oilers on their own. But I think I'm going at I think I'm on like a 6 or 7 game streak here of winning props
It
in
seems
these
pretty
Oilers
good.
games.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
so. I'm feeling pretty confident about my Oilers bets. That's for sure. But I guess before we wrap up this show, uh, let's talk about Alex Ovechkin a little bit because he did score another goal last night. He is now just 10 goals away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal scoring record. The Capitals have 20 games remaining this season. I think that's where they're at right now. And yeah, they've got the easiest remaining schedule. I know we talked about this a bit as being one of the reasons why he might be able to do it this season. And it's starting to seem really realistic. I mean, they've got a matchup coming up against Detroit, Seattle, Anaheim. The San Jose Sharks are in there. The Red Wings again. The Flyers. They've got some tough matchups on the schedule, but the Sabres, the Bruins, the Blackhawks. Yeah, so I think this is very doable for Ovechkin at this point.
Yeah, I really at this point, if he doesn't do it, it's going to be heartbreaking, and they're going to push really hard to get it. Like I think once he gets close, he's going to have a little extra jump. They're going to be doing all they can. So, yeah, but still another great win from the Caps, and there's always those couple guys calling out how pathetic it is the team's trying so hard to get him this record, even after last night's game where he scores the game tying goal in a really tight checking affair. Where the team obviously needed that goal. It was huge for them. And I think, like we've talked about a lot, they've done a great job of not letting it be a distraction. They're using him to find a lot more success on the power play. The other guys are doing a good job of taking advantage of teams cheating to that side. So I think that's what's made it so much fun is I think it's kind of the exact opposite of that. He's on a really good team. He's been, not dominant at even strength. I don't think anyone should have expected that, but he's hanging in and finding ways to make himself useful outside of just this chase. So, and the other thing is that team goes through Ovechkin. Like if you listen to them, he's set the culture. I think that room right now seems like everyone in it just loves playing there so much, and he doesn't get much credit for it. Like I feel like you really don't hear much talk of people saying like, "Hey, Ovechkin's the captain of this team. They're overachieving expectations by a mile. They've been." So all these guys come in and love it. Dubois comes in and he's engaged. Carberry's been a big part of that, but I think Ovechkin as well deserves a lot of credit as the captain of the team and a leader. And I feel like the media here really doesn't give it to him. So, we'll use our little show to at least pump him up a little bit because I think he has done a great job as a leader of the team.
Yeah, Darren Pang calling Ovechkin a one-trick pony. I guess he would just, I don't know, ignored the first decade of Ovechkin's career because, yeah, he might be a one-trick pony now at this
He's
point, but
way more of a one trick, and like even then, I think he does a good job getting to the net. Like if you watch,
yeah,
he gets a decent amount of tip ins and rebound goals, but he's so much more one dimensional now. It's not even
yeah,
in the same
absolutely.
world. Like if anything, he's so much closer to a one trick pony now. His stick handling's regressed a ton. He has a really hard time handling pucks. His skating has obviously slowed down a little. So yeah, I know. As a Caps fan listening to that, it's just like you just you have to turn it off. It's the same thing
I
he's
mean, he's
always
got to be
kind of
one of the
gotten.
most. I think he's maybe the most physical goal scorer, maybe outside, maybe, you talk about a guy like Cam Neely or somebody like that, but, nobody was as physical, as long, and scoring as many goals as Ovechkin was, right? Like he played hard every shift and he would take his pound of flesh a lot in the earlier years. And I think, I mean, he showed unbelievable skating skill and puck handling skills, and he was just so evasive. And I always think back to that unbelievable play where he was skating full stride up the boards, banked it off the boards, and did a spin move and kept going with the puck. Like that's not
Yeah.
one dimensional. He had so much creativity in his earlier years, and yeah, that's why he's one of my favorite players.
Yeah, and he got it bad. Like nothing annoyed me more than those early playoff struggles because some of those series, like the first time they lost to Pittsburgh, he was absolutely insane. I think that was probably his best hockey was that 7-game series. And that was kind of right when analytics first came out. And if you look at all the numbers, he was driving play so significantly. And he was actually doing more in terms of blocking shots, hits, all these things that people said he didn't pick up until he finally won. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think for a while there he got it bad, kind of being the leader of an underperforming Caps team that just couldn't quite get it done when it mattered. So yeah, I'm happy to see that to some extent people don't view him as that anymore. But I think he also had that rep probably about 10 years longer than he should have.
For sure. So hopefully, when we come back on Tuesday next week, we'll be recapping a couple of more goals from Alex Ovechkin, and talking about how he is even closer to breaking Wayne Gretzky's record, Governor Gretzky, as I like to call him. Anyway, that does it for today's show. Good luck with your bets tonight, and of course, gamble responsibly.